Happy full moon, my loves. Welcome to your Aries full moon horoscope for Thursday, the 17th of October, 2024. I'm intuitive evolutionary astrologer and psychic tarot reader, Crystal, the crystalline priestess. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this beautiful full moon. Okay, my loves, so we have the sun at 24 degrees of Libra and we have the moon at 24 degrees of Aries, which makes this a beautiful Aries full moon that we are having. It is not an eclipse, it is just a regular full moon, but we are still feeling the intensity of this moon because it is closing out a very, very strong, intense eclipse that we did have at the beginning of this year in April. I'm sure you guys remember it. It was that April new moon eclipse with Chiron at 19 degrees. It was a rough go for a lot of us. And so this full moon it's the closing of many chapters, but it is particularly the closing of a chapter in our identities where we have not been able to own who we are. We're really, I think, struggling collectively with the astrology and with the transits that we're currently going through and the major shifting that we're sort of in between, a part of experiencing between all these outer planets. You know, we have Pluto at 29 degrees, we have Neptune at 27 degrees, and we have Uranus here at 26 degrees. So we are really, and I speak about this a lot in my readings, but we really are on the cusp of a whole different world, you know, a whole shift into a whole new way of being and a whole new way of showing up, and humanity really showing up in entirely different ways than we've previously known. And so we are in these moments of the in-between and of the uncomfortable, icky middle part, if you know what I mean. You know, it's kind of like literally the climax of the story where we're in the middle and we're having to fight all of the dragons and fight all of the sort of demons and all of the difficult things that are supposed to, you know, get us to the other side. You know, once we finish fighting with these things, we finally get to that sort of new world and that new energy. But we are having to deal with, I suppose, the leaving behind and the endings. You know, nothing can be fully finished without sort of being going through closure, is sort of where I'm trying to get at with the feeling that I think that this full moon is really going to have us encapsulating. I feel as though it's a full moon that feels as though, especially with that Venus right here at 29 degrees of Scorpio in her final moment of being in Scorpio, and she makes this really, really beautiful little sextile over here to Pluto, who is in Capricorn, now direct and for the very, very last time. And so it's almost this culmination moment of us finding a sense of self-worth and value and love and deep personal love, and deep love for the people around us and the people who have been in our lives for a long time. It feels like it comes to a culmination point over this full moon. Now, I do want to say that we can't deny the fact that this full moon is conjunct Chiron, who is at 21 degrees, still retrograde, of Aries. And so there is wounding that is going to be coming up for everybody, and particularly when it comes to our relationships. Now, because we have what it's called in astrology essentially a grand cardinal cross. Now, we don't have it exactly degree wise, but if you have been tuning into my readings lately, you would have heard me talk about this energy being extremely potent and really, really activating us into this needing to finish out and close out a final sort of chapter in our lives. And that's what the shifting of these outer planets actually is. And because there's such an intense shift as they make their way out with all these connections that they're making to each other, at the same time as we have all these connections between personal planets, we really are going through a huge collective awakening and conscious shift, but we're also going through major internal breakthroughs and shifts and awakenings within ourselves. And with that Chiron there, a lot of this has to do with personal healing, and it has to do with healing our identities and healing who we feel as though we really are on the inside, so that we can really move out into the world and have more of an understanding of who we are and who we're meant to be and how we're meant to show up. Because I feel as though with the shifting of these outer planets and with where it feels like we are as a society, it feels as though, you know, it's time for us to really embrace new ways of identifying and new ways of embracing and being in society and being in humanity. You know, Pluto and Capricorn actually resembles society, and so does Aquarius. So we are dealing with Pluto, who's moving through the two signs that sort of symbolize society. And when we get to Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, or Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, I should say, I'm sorry. So when we get to Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, we actually get to what are called the collective signs. So Scorpio, Libra, Virgo, and Leo are social signs. So they're interested in close relationships, personal relationships, you know, one-on-one. And then we have Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, and Aries, who are personal signs. You know, they're very focused on the self. They're very much about self-evolution, self-growth. And really, you know, I'm even getting, you know, a message through the guy that lives downstairs. He's just revving up this car that he's literally just built from, you know, his hands, his own two hands. Like, it's completely butchered up. It's very much Chiron Aries. It's a messed up thing, but it's also really fun, and it's awesome, and it's like, you know, it's a laugh. And so it's also something that he's really put a lot of time, effort, work, love, sweat, tears into. And so this is that full moon where we are really having to realize that we're going through massive moments of realizing that we are at the end, and at the end of a process of having to put our heart and soul into something. And for some of us, things didn't work out. Some of us are having to accept that things didn't, you know, finish on maybe the term that we wanted it to. Maybe some of us have had to let go of people, of relationships, of, you know, even assets. I'm staring at this Venus in Scorpio now. I'm seeing people losing assets, you know, homes, natural disasters, things like that. Like over the past 15, 16 years, and even since 2004, 2005, when we last had the North Node in Aries, we are really seeing how our identities have shifted and changed since that time, and we've really grown. And so the reason I was bringing up the signs, so Aries being Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer being these individual signs, they're very much focused on the self. They're very much focused on what is it about me, learning and understanding me. And so having this full moon conjunct Chiron and Aries is almost this moment where I think everyone in the collective is sort of saying, well, I'm seeing where I am actually wounded, you know, I'm seeing where I'm really not perfect. And maybe I think that the key, truly, my loves, with especially this sextile that we still have to Jupiter while we have this full moon over with Chiron. We've had this sextile for the past like almost 2 weeks, and it's really getting close to coming to the end at this point because Chiron's about to move to 20 degrees of Aries. And so we are very much in this moment of needing to understand that Jupiter's now retrograde. So both of these planets, this asteroid and this planet is retrograde. So we have to understand that this is a healing moment, and the healing is extremely important. And the more we're allowing ourselves to, you know, I think write things down, listen, and see, with Toad coming out, I think it's about really, it says listening and secrecy. It's about really listening to, I think, the secrets that your soul has been trying to tell you that you haven't been paying attention to. You know what I mean? I feel as though with Venus in Scorpio at 29 degrees in this really beautiful sextile over to Capricorn Pluto for the very last time, this is a really beautiful last final moment to get really, really clear and to hold in this this desire that has been building and has been growing and has been really moving into a sense of culmination. And I think that's what this full moon feels like to me. It feels like a culmination of us understanding what it is that we have truly been developing a desire for and a hunger for over the past, 19 years since the North Node was last in this sign. And if you weren't born then, well then this is kind of one of these moments to get really clear and open on that now. This is your first time dealing with the North Node being in Aries. And I'm sure that I don't really have very many people that are that young on my channel. So really, you know, it's obviously, it's about exploring a new path within yourself, and a more, it's not so much more of anything, I think, to be honest. Actually, I think it's more so about when we have this Aries Chiron connection with this full moon, I think it really is about us needing to identify and understand that the identity that we develop, if it comes from somebody else with this opposition to Libra and Lilith, if it comes from somebody else's projection or perception, then it's actually not in true harmony and alignment. You know, if it comes from, with that Gemini Jupiter there, if it comes from the environment or what's trending and seems cool, you know, what the people at school are wearing, what the people at school are talking about, you know, if it's trying to follow it in a path and to do something because it's trending, and that's what that Pluto moving into Aquarius is really going to be about. People needing to find an authentic heart with the opposition to Leo. And so with Venus being in this opposition to Uranus, as it leaves Scorpio and moves into Sagittarius right after this full moon, we have to be facing, once again, the message that our soul has for us in regards to where it is that we're truly wanting to go in our goals and in our ambitions. You know, it really is about the mountain that we're trying to climb. Why are we trying to climb it? What are we trying to climb it for? We've been talking about this for weeks now, my loves. We really have been speaking about this for weeks. So at this point, it's about understanding, and especially with this Mars in an opposition, moving into that opposition with Pluto and starting to square with the Sun. I mean, not starting. And still squaring with the Sun and squaring with Chiron as we have this full moon. We are still needing to face where our emotions have a message, you know, this listening in secrecy. It feels as though it's really about listening to what message our emotions have to tell us, because especially with this Mercury, who's at 5 degrees here of Scorpio, he's in a quincunx with the North Node. And so there's really this need to be, you know, not trying, I think, so hard to figure everything out on the surface, and to be running around with this, you know, push comes to shove, I need to have this all worked out, and I need to do and have and have it all worked out. I think that it's really about listening at the moment. I feel like it's really about paying attention to where God has a message for all of us. And I think, you know, the Sun at 24 degrees of Libra, actually, let's get the Sabian symbol. We'll get the Sabian symbol for 25 degrees of Libra. But it really feels to me as though it's an extremely important time for learning to really trust in, I think, the power that our own individual, you know, your identity has. And I think the wounding that comes through over this full moon is going to come through the ego. And I think that Lilith might activate once again. You know, we just came off that new moon that we just had in Libra, who was conjunct Lilith at 10 degrees as well as Mercury. And so we're really needing to understand that this whole, you know, past few weeks has been us really needing to hear the voice of our spirit that we've been ignoring for a very long time. And we could have been ignoring this from the beginning of Pluto Capricorn. We could have been ignoring this from 2004, 2005. We've been ignoring a lot of messages from our souls from a long time. And now we need to remember as well, while Saturn is over here at 13 degrees of Pisces, and he's really not doing too much when it comes to traditional aspects. He's not making any squares, he's not really making any trines or sextiles. He is making a couple of sort of quincunxes and semi-squares, and there is a little bit of weirdness with him. So I feel as though this Saturn is really not giving us, I think, much over this full moon. And I think that with Mars being the dispositor of the full moon being in Aries, you know, and it being in Cancer, a water sign, who he just finished with that beautiful sort of grand trine all the past few weeks with Saturn and with Venus, he's really been trying to get us to understand where when we honor our emotional selves and our emotional bodies, and we listen to the emotional intelligence that we are receiving from our own spirit and from our own, you know, inner world. We're actually really connecting with spirit. And I don't know if I feel like I butchered the way I said that, but really what I'm trying to say is that listening to your emotions, and not in the sense that you let them overrun you and overrule you, but learning your intelligence around them and understanding how they work for you so that you can actually move through them and allow them to move through your body so that they don't get caught up and become, you know, stagnant and stuck, and they start to cause problems. Because emotions, when they have nowhere to go, when they get stuck and stagnant, they cause issues within the body. And I think that that's what this full moon is sort of also going to be a culmination of. It's going to be with the conjunction to Chiron in Aries, Aries being the ruler of the first house, ruler of the body, ruler of Mars, you know, and Mars really sort of talking about our energy as well, and Mars being in Cancer. We're having to see where if we don't actually take care of our bodies properly, we don't have the energy to show up for anything. And in particular, we don't have the energy to show up for this Pluto and Capricorn, which is a career. And so our career has to understand that it comes with a healthy home life 100%, otherwise you are not ever going to have the balance. The balance lies in the oppositions, you know what I mean? Like, we can't have Capricorn without Cancer, and we can't have Cancer without Capricorn. Because a man needs to feel as though there is something to provide for. If he doesn't have a home and, you know, a wife and children, or, you know, a hubby or dogs, whatever the hell he wants to go home to that he considers family, you know, whatever she wants to go home to that she considers family, if you don't have something to go home to at the end of the day, what are you building for? This is about understanding, and especially with Venus being in Scorpio, this is long-term understanding of legacy and how deep it goes. And it's not so deep, it's not so surface level. Everything with Libra can sometimes be a little bit surface level. And we are moving into our final square with the sun between Libra and Capricorn, being Pluto and Capricorn, that we're ever going to have. You know, and so we have to understand that these are moments that are very important in our lives, and these are moments that are fated, and these are moments that are offering us opportunities to listen. And I think with that Venus being in that opposition, while we have this full moon with Uranus and it being in that really amazing sort of sextile over here with Pluto, we're needing to keep secrets. We're needing to not tell everybody what it is that we're going through. We're maybe needing to do some of this healing on the internal. Maybe some of us are finally opening up to therapy. Maybe some of us are finally opening up with our therapist about something that we haven't even had the wherewithal to be able to speak about until now. This is very much one of those moons where it's like, it's time to think about it, feel about it. It's time to embrace the healing that comes with that, and sometimes that means you have to open up the can of worms and we have to face these emotions, you know. And with Jupiter and Gemini in retrograde, with this Chiron and in a sextile to this full moon, it is really about us having to understand that we can't go too far down the rabbit hole of needing to see all the facts and have it all logically figured out. Healing isn't linear, and healing is something that cannot be worked out in the mind. It's something that does actually physically happen in the body. I'm hearing the Trevor Hall album In and Through the Body, and so it's really about understanding that healing happens through paying attention to the way you feel, with this square to Mars being in Cancer. You know, and Mars is moving so mother effing slow. He's already in shadow. He's already gearing up to go retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo next, I think it's in December actually. So it's not too far away. So we have to understand that this moon might be showing us where we need to take a break, because we've been pushing too hard, and you know, the wheels are about to fall off the fucking wagon. And I'm not saying give up by any means, especially because we have Pluto here at 29 degrees of Capricorn. We have Venus in Scorpio. You know, you need to understand that there is still a level of desire that has to keep you going in the strength of this time, you know, in how difficult and chaotic these times actually are. There has to be a deep-rooted desire that keeps you glued to what it is that you're trying to truly build. And so you can't be giving up on something that you've had your heart and soul set on, you know, for the past 16 years, that you've been really moving towards it. But it is about shifting maybe the way we've been approaching. And that's what I really want to talk about, is shifting the way we've been approaching things. Because Chiron and Aries dispositing Mars who's in Cancer, we've been pushing so hard and we haven't been listening to our emotional selves. We haven't been listening to what our spirit needs. We have the seahorse archetype coming out that says fatherly power and constancy. So we're dealing with needing to show up to ourselves constantly. And with fatherly power coming out, you know, we have to look at Saturn, we have to look at Pluto, and Pluto disposits Saturn while he's in Capricorn, or you know, the dispositor of Capricorn is Saturn. And so we have to pay attention to where Saturn is while Pluto makes his final moments here. And so we only have a month left. Literally after this full moon, we only have a month left because Pluto moves into Aquarius on the 20th of November 2024, and it's the 19th if you're my Northern Hemisphere loves. And so we really only have about a month after this full moon. So we're needing to deal with these father wounds because Pluto being in Capricorn and that opposition with Mars who is coming in Cancer, it's really asking us to deal with these inner child wounds that we've developed through parental, you know, Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio, through the shit that we sort of absorbed, the shit that we didn't even realize that we were sort of attracting into our lives because we absorbed it as children. You know what I mean? So this is us really having to understand where we have absorbed a lot of stuff, and especially when it comes to relationships, there's a need to understand where our perception of our relationships have been wounded, and a lot of it comes from maybe mother and father issues. And with this toad coming out in secrecy, a lot of us are dealing with, you know, family secrets, and we could still be over this full moon dealing with secrets coming out, or us having to hide, or us finding things out about family members where we have to keep a secret. And you know, this is very secretive energy, and that secret energy is really asking for us to start listening to the emotional repercussions of what it actually means to, you know, hide your soul, hide yourself. Some secrets are better off being kept. I'm not someone who believes that all secrets need to be like sprawled out on the lawn and showed to everybody. This is about understanding where sometimes you do need to be secretive about where it is you're going. If you've decided that you're still following the same path, but you're going to actually go in a different direction towards it, you're going to allow yourself to, you know, energetically shift things up. Maybe this is not the time to start telling everybody around you how you're going to approach it, because with that Chiron full moon, people aren't seeing each other properly. You know, people are seeing what they think that they want to, but this moon, the sun in Libra, you know, it's kind of this projection, especially the square that's coming up with Pluto and Capricorn, this projection especially about success. And a lot of us are wanting to show, I'm successful, you know, look at all this money I've got, look at the prestige, or look at what I'm doing. And with Venus moving into Sagittarius as well, right after this full moon, it's kind of a little bit like, you know, look at where I've been going, look at and you know, we have that Jupiter who is going to be in an opposition with Venus now. So this is us needing to sort of see where if we're sort of beating ourselves up on, look at what I've done, look at where I've gone, look at all these places I've been, you know, it's pretty much this energy of having to own that your identity is not built off what you've done and, you know, what people deem as being external recognition and that being the validating point in your life. You know, what actually validates you at the end of the day is truly your family. Because if you don't have love and acceptance from the people closest to you and your family, and recognition from the people that adore you and the people that are closest to you, well then you are feeling lost. You know, there is a sense of not having the roots in order to grow that tree, because family is the roots that hold true to the tree. Now, I do want to mention, not everyone obviously has healthy family relationships. I'm not talking about everybody needing to go to their toxic ass family and go heal that shit. You know, I kind of mean do the work that you know that you need to be doing. If that means staying away from certain family members, stay away from them. You know what I mean? This is about understanding what it is that you need. With this Chiron in Aries, you have to understand that what you need matters, and that your needs and your emotions are actually literally a guiding force that tell you exactly what it is that you need or where it is that you need to go. We have hope and harmony coming out with the swallow. So it feels as though this is an opportunity over this full moon, especially with the Jupiter trine with Chiron, and the fact that they're both retrograde. I think that we're having to dig inside to find hope at the moment. We're having to look within, and we're having to, I think, have a little bit of, you know, a moment of looking up to the sky. I'm really seeing someone like, you know, looking up to the sky, and I'm seeing sunshine, because I think it's really important to remember to go outside during these moments. You know, Jupiter and Gemini in retrograde. Have you been going outside? Have you been catering to your environment? Have you been looking after the house? Have you been creating an environment that actually feels as though it's conducive to your emotions? You know, this is about needing to really help ourselves have a lifestyle that feels as though it's conducive to what we really need. And it's not about the external world and what other people are telling us that we need and all these things. You know, we have God coming out as the archetype. So it's about listening to the voice of spirit, listening to the voice of God that is within you, because that is the voice that is literally the strongest, the loudest, the most clear, the easiest to understand, the voice that has the most ability and capability to provide to you a true message of recognition for what it is that you need to be doing next. I feel like all of us are standing in this precipice saying, what do I do next, God? What do I do next, God? What do I do next, God? And I think with Seahorse and with Toad, we're needing to, with constancy, you know, we're needing to keep putting one foot in front of the other. We're needing to keep holding on to the faith. We're needing to keep holding on to a level of inner balance and harmony, because with Chiron, with these squares that we have, and even with the square to the sun, between the sun and Pluto that's building over this full moon, we need to understand that we do have a tendency, and with this Venus in Scorpio, we could lose our shit, we could get angry. You know, just having the moon in Aries in general, we could, you know, have a reaction that is just straight off the cuff and quick and doesn't consider love and doesn't consider compassion. It's more so an egoic reaction. And you know, if you notice yourself having that sort of energy, that's egoic. And if you notice it within your family or someone around you, just understand that they are in that Chiron, they're in that wounded ego, and you know, don't go at them, because it's only going to hurt them more. It's only going to create a bigger wounded reaction. You know, it's kind of like, don't approach a wounded dog if you know, you don't know that dog, sort of thing. It's giving me that energy, you know, when you try to go help someone, like a dog, and they're wounded, but they just react and try to attack you because they don't understand that you're trying to help them. You know, it's like looking to try and go help a crocodile because he's wounded and forgetting that he's a crocodile. So it's about being careful, I think, at the moment, and with Venus in her final moments of Scorpio, and I think that she's off that opposition with Uranus and Algol, the demon star, but I don't think that we're quite out of the woods when it comes to needing to just have our wits about us, and especially divine feminines, and especially my women, my ladies out there, just being open and aware of your surroundings, especially with that sextile to Pluto. We could be dealing with people who, you know, want to essentially get a level of prestige or a level of feeling cool, you know. This is giving me the energy of, you know, typical that high school dude who goes around and sleeps with all these girls because he thinks it makes him look cool, and in the end he just ends up having like diseases and is just a loser, and it's just, you know, he ends up essentially having a chop. That's the, okay, I'm not going to say that, but you guys get where I'm going with that. That was literally the analogy I got. It went as far as with this Pluto to you keep doing the deed for so long without any regard for the divine feminine, and something's going to happen to you. You know what I mean? So it feels as though this is a moon of having to embrace the divine feminine, and to be careful if you are a divine feminine, because there is a lot of wounded masculines out there. There's a lot of wounded egos, and especially that's the unfortunate thing with being a woman, is sometimes you're going to have to tiptoe around their egos in order to shut them down, to avoid yourself being in a situation that is not something that you want at all. So we are just going to have to be aware over this full moon. You know, full moons are always known for the lunatics, the crazies. It's no secret, and so just be careful and have your wits about you over this full moon. So anyway, God, light attributes, benevolence and compassion, recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others. The shadow attributes is despotism and cruelty, using power to control people. And so this is absolutely about not using your power to control anybody. This is about using compassion. And I think that that's what this Chiron Aries is. It's about having compassion. This is the warrior having compassion, you know, compassion for the self and compassion for the family, compassion for the home, compassion with Cancer, compassion for the emotions, needing to understand that, you know, this is one of those moments, I think, too, where there's a lot of men who have bottled up a lot of emotion, who have bottled up their emotions all throughout their lifetimes because they haven't been allowed to express them. You know, it's all about being the tough guy, the macho man, and that's with this seahorse, fatherly power, toad, secrecy, holding your emotions in. And so I feel like this God, benevolence and compassion, recognizing the eternal force within yourself and others. So this is seeing the eternal force of God that is within you and within everybody else. If it's okay for your wife to cry, it needs to be okay for you to cry as well. You know, we need to understand that it's okay to be emotional. Emotions are not something to be afraid of. And that's something that I think our society has really been sort of like deemed or fooled, actually, that's the word, fooled into believing, is that emotions are something to be afraid of and that are something that are dangerous. We have the bat archetype, we have initiation and transition. So this is a full moon that is it is 100% a transitory moon. It's got us in between, you know, night and day. I feel as though we are literally in between an old version of us and a new version of us. We're in between being a bat and being a vampire. It feels as though there's a part of us that hasn't finished, you know, letting go of the past, but there's a part of us that is entirely ready to embrace the future. And so I feel like this transition is really about having to be in a moment of understanding where things are going to look weird, they're going to look topsy-turvy, they're not going to be comfortable. With Chiron being in this full moon, in the square to Mars, there is going to be moments of really uncomfortable emotional awareness. And I also want to say, be careful with driving, be careful with just doing things that are going too fast. Water sports, with that being in Cancer, you know, just be careful, and being careful with being out, you know, I keep hearing in the club, we have Saturn, truth, and we have first house, the body. So we do have to understand, like I spoke to, this is a moon about understanding where our health is our wealth, because we have this Aries connection, Chiron, the body, it rules the first house. So it is about understanding where our emotions really do actually physically affect our health, and so do our relationships, and so does our career. So if our career, if our relationships, if our emotions are all unbalanced, our physical body is going to be unbalanced as well. And so we need to start moving into a level of balance through understanding spiritual awareness with this Saturn, who's at 13 degrees of Pisces in this quincunx with Lilith here. Lilith is really trying to get us to focus on just what does it look like on the outside. You know, as long as I look good, then, you know, my health doesn't really matter. This is about needing to go deeper than the aesthetic. This is about Saturn. It's long-term health. What's your health going to look like in 30 years if you continue on the exact same path that you are over this full moon? This is about understanding, with this Chiron being here, the truth about your body, the truth about what it is that you need. We have Jupiter return and benefits and Yod destiny coming out. And so the sun actually moves into a Yod right after we have this full moon. When the sun reaches 26 degrees of Libra on Saturday, we're going to have a really, really powerful Yod with Neptune and with Uranus and with Algol and with the sun there. And so these are divine moments, and I feel as though Spirit is really truly trying to bless us and trying to offer and give us something. I just saw 33 on the camera. So there really is something that oh my god, and then we have Grand Trine blessings underneath that with eclipse, lunar eclipse and change. So there is a big change in our emotions and in our family lives and in the way that we feel that's trying to come in. And I think a lot of us are now starting to focus on our families and our personal lives in a way that we never have before. And we're starting to see that as being with this Pluto Venus connection, I think that we really are truly starting to see where that's what we actually value the most. What we value the most is the deepest connections that we have in this life, which is our families, it's our wife, it's the person, or our husband, it's the person that is closest to us. It's the person that knows our deepest, darkest secrets, our fears, our hopes, our dreams. We have to understand where we are so much more blessed than we realize, and that's what this Sun in Libra, with the square to Pluto in Capricorn, we want to strive, we want to be at this level of achievement, with this fatherly thing, where we're wanting to have reached past where our father was, or we're wanting to have made him proud, or we're wanting to have, reached this level of impressing our peers that hasn't, yes, it might have come true in some ways, but it hasn't come true in all ways. And I think that that's a humbling moment that this is asking for us to be a part of. We have hope coming out again and spiritual union. So it's more so about the relationships that you have in your life. Because what do they say? Isn't it literally like they say that behind every successful man is an extremely powerful woman, or something like that? Like, that's what this vibe is about. It's about knowing that in order to reach the top of the mountain, you have to have good people around you. You have to have a good partner. You have to have someone that truly understands you and gets you. You have to have that Scorpio love. You know what I mean? Venus moving into Sagittarius after this full moon is going to have us once again opening up to the positivity of where it is that we're needing to go. The sun is still in the South Node's domain when Venus moves into Sagittarius, and Venus is the dispositor of that South Node. So we are needing to understand that after this sextile with Pluto, we're really expanding and growing through positive connections and, oh my god, literally positive movement forward and material harvest. So we're needing to understand that this is really one of those moments where it's about needing to look on the bright side of life. And not that I'm someone that is all about just thinking positive thoughts to try and create a positive reality. It's a lot deeper than that, but it is about needing to understand that first, what does actually change is your perception. It is your mind. It is you needing to see things from a different perspective. And that's what this Jupiter final moment sort of with Chiron is, as they make this sextile with the full moon, that says we really need to be paying attention to every sort of little connection that we have in our lives, and understanding who is for us and who really doesn't need to be there, because there's a lot of people that we have had in our lives over the past 19-20 years that have dropped off. And I think that this is one of those moons where we see the reason why people had to leave, and the people that are with us for a reason. The people that have stuck around for a reason. Not everybody needs a seat at your table. And so I feel as though with Venus having moved off this opposition with Uranus, and now she's having this lovely sextile with Pluto, as we have this lovely full moon, we are needing to see where the people who really only cared about their image, or the people who really only cared about being friends with us because it made them look cool, or stopped being friends with us because it stopped making them look cool, all that sort of stuff is really going to sort of start to come back and bite people in the ass with Pluto moving into Aquarius, because authenticity is going to become very hard to come by. And the people who have stuck to their integrity and who have stuck to what feels like true connection with their truth, what really feels like a connection with their innate, authentic knowing of who they are the people who are going to be the most successful in the new world that we move into, because success is not going to look the way that it did with Pluto and Capricorn. This material harvest comes from love. It's going to come from union. It's going to come from reciprocal connections and relationships. And I think that's what this full moon signature is, having Venus in her final moment of Scorpio, which is her detriment. But it's really been this sifting and sorting and beautiful time, I think, that has allowed us to regain a sense of hope, because as she moves now into Sagittarius, and she starts to make these really beautiful trines over with the North Node and a sextile then with the South Node, she's going to start to open us up again to who it is that we really truly came here to, embody when it comes to what we wanted to look like, the wildness that really is at heart. This feels like a wild at heart sort of energy. A lot of us are having to understand that we've lost our wildness, and it's kind of getting that back. in a way. And so once Venus does move into Sag, she will start to make squares over with Saturn and with Jupiter, so that's going to be difficult because it is going to create a T-square. So of course we're never, you know, just going to have all positive. There's going to be harsh stuff as well, but it is this opportunity, because I think she's just had this really lovely final connection with Pluto. She's giving us this opportunity to finally, you know, see where our desires don't have to align with an idea that society taught us was popular 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You know what I mean? You know, just because it was popular then, just because we thought that that's what we wanted when we were teenagers, doesn't mean we need to keep holding on to it. I think a lot of us have been holding on to a lot of subconscious shit for a long time, and especially when it comes to our desires, and we need to get to the bottom of understanding what we really truly want, because it's not within an external idea or a look or an image or a way it's supposed to be. It's about a state of feeling. It's a state of being when it comes to this Mars in Cancer. We have determination and mental energy with the Badger coming out. So it is about remaining determined to become the person that you want to be. We have camouflage and imbalance. So I think a lot of us have been hiding our imbalances, and we really are trying, especially with Chiron being there over this full moon. A lot of us are still trying to hide where we don't feel beautiful, where we don't feel, you know, where we're feeling restricted in showing our light and showing our beauty and showing our essence. This is a moon where we're needing to remain positive. You know, we have the narwhal under that says uniqueness and freedom. So it's about setting ourselves free through understanding that the uniqueness we have is, you know, this Chiron and Aries, the uniqueness of our identity is our greatest superpower. It's about seeing how beautiful it is to be different. And it's always the people that are the most different that are the most loved. And not everybody's ever, there's no person on this planet that is loved by every person on this planet. And especially the bigger you become, the more people who have access to deciding whether they like or they don't like you. And that's not under your control. And so it's about understanding that your wounded identity, your ego is not in control when it's trying to cling to something, or it is in control, I should say, when it's trying to cling to something that comes from somebody else's ideal of what it should look like. If it comes from the soul, do it. If it comes from deep within you, if it comes from something that feels taboo and kind of naughty, and like, you know, this feels like I'm breaking sort of those taboos, like, you know, that it feels like it's hard to move through. Taurus is, it's kind of restrictive because it holds so tight to its tradition. And so this is with that Venus in Scorpio, you know, it's about needing to be like, you know what, I am that person that's covered in tattoos and I own it. And instead of always going to my family's house and covering myself in long sleeves so that nobody has any tattoos, I'm just going to rock up, I'm going to show my tattoos, I'm going to just start sharing myself authentically, because, you know, this Chiron and Aries, I'm ready to start accepting the emotional repercussions that come with being my true self. And if people accept me, they accept me. If they don't, they don't. So let's read this Sabian symbol and let's get out of here, my loves. 25 degrees of Libra. Information in the symbol of an autumn leaf. Keyword, tact. Revelation. This symbol speaks to imagination and to an ability to understand the subtle messages in all things and events through a sensitivity to pattern. The image of information in the symbol of an autumn leaf emphasizes the importance of observation and paying attention to detail. The suggestion here is that intelligence is basically the capacity to understand how things can be used to achieve desired ends and benefit the self and others. The emphasis in this degree is on understanding the mutual and necessary interdependence of man and his world. Positive, at its highest, this symbol represents adaptability, intuition, a natural ability to see beyond surface appearances and to comprehend the ultimate meaning and purpose of things, and an unwavering commitment to the highest good in all situations. Negative, tendency to get lost in inconsequential detail or lose perspective in foolish flights of fancy. Today, the accent is on interpretation. Translating information from one medium or language to another may require your time and attention. Opportunity. Your greatest advantage lies in focusing on your objective and being diplomatic in getting your message across. Risk. Guard against believing that because something is difficult to understand, that it is more important or has more value. Avoid confusing others with irrelevant details or talking about things they can't relate to or have no interest in. Stepping stones: meaning, significance, revelation, message, sensitiveness, intuition, understanding, imagination, and secret codes. And I also realized while I was reading that that was Libra, and really we actually needed to be looking at Taurus. So we are definitely going to be dealing with the oppositions of each other, I think, today. Did I just say Taurus? Y'all know I meant Aries. Okay, 25 degrees of Aries, a double promise, keyword sensibility. Theme, on the other hand, this symbol speaks to duplication, two-ness, and everything that the two represents. So I guess that makes sense why we just read the other one. It also speaks to the resourcefulness in finding options or alternatives. The image of a double promise alludes to choice, and here the choice is between two options that hold equal promise. The emphasis on duality highlights the fact that everything in life has both a literal and symbolical value, and that every option open to an individual can be viewed in terms of its inner or subjective value, what it means to the individual, and its outer or objective value, what it means to others. Positive. At its highest, this symbol represents flexibility, the capacity to see both sides of an issue, and a talent for getting all things and people to cooperate and work together in harmony. Negative. Duplicity and trickery. Today, the accent is on choice and options. There is also an emphasis on this symbol on security and being doubly careful to protect things. Opportunity. Your greatest advantage lies in looking at both sides of an issue. Carefully weigh the pros and cons and examine alternatives. Risk. Guard against making a decision too quickly. Don't accept things at face value. They may not be what they appear to be. Stepping stones, duality, choice, alternatives, equality, cooperation, assurance, literal and symbolical meanings, inner and outer, visible and invisible. And something I also wanted to mention that I nearly forgot was that this is all very much, when it comes to the collective front, like I spoke to the collective signs, we're dealing with a lot of energies when it comes to just big stuff happening when it comes around war, and when it comes around just big stuff, conflict, all that sort of issue, all those sorts of issues, protests, all that sort of stuff. It's just big time going to be coming up over this full moon. We're going to be seeing some really weird stuff in the collective, especially with Chiron being there. Some just, you know, we're seeing a lot of wounded war stuff and a lot of issues around, I think, the divine feminine as well, with that Mars being in a square to Cancer and the Pluto, you know, just a lot of issues when it comes to people and, you know, and that's the thing, homelands too, is Mars and Cancer, because Cancer is homelands and Pluto in that opposition. We're going to be dealing with a lot of issues that people have around homelands and whose land is what and all that sort of stuff. And so just keep an eye out and don't get caught up in the chaos, because Chiron, Moon, don't do anything silly. Be careful, like we said, with that square to Mars. Don't be doing anything violent. Violent stuff could be coming up. Just be careful with where you're at over this full moon, my love. So I'm going to leave this reading there. I do hope that you enjoyed it. I'm sure you guys noticed, but I did actually stop doing daily horoscopes this week. That is because I'm actually going through some health stuff at the moment, and it's actually really had me doing what this full moon reading has all been about. It's really had me needing to look at my own personal shit, and it's had me needing to look at my ego and say, am I trying to just put... Well, sorry my loves, that totally just cut me off right as I was closing out anyway. So I was basically just saying I'm going through my own thing where I'm having to look at what actually works for me, the type of content that's actually going to work for me, and the type of content that my audience wants from me as well. And so all those sort of nitty-gritty little things. So you guys ain't alone in all your changing up stuff. Obviously you can see that I am right there in the middle of it with you, my love. So if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up, because it really does help my channel to spread to other astro lovers and nerds like me and yourself. If you would like to book a personal tarot or astrology reading with me, you can do that down below through my link tree. I'm currently a little bit slow when it comes to getting back with readings because I have a lot going on in my personal life, but do rest assured we will be in contact and we will be working it out if that is what you want, my love. So Make sure you check out your channeled songs. I'd like to thank your angels, your ancestors, your higher self, your spirit guides, all the beautiful benevolent beings that are surrounding you and I in all moments for allowing me to receive and to deliver this message for you guys. I really appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have the most incredible Aries full moon. Make sure that you tune in for Astro Tea Weekly that will be dropping in hot over the weekend, and I will see you next time, as well as make sure you let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or any suggestions for the type of content and videos you would like to see in the future, my love. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.